Okay, I can take that one.
Sure.
So EMS stands for Emergency Medical Services.
Okay.
And basically, here at Gauteng EMS, we are part of the Department of Health, and we cater for obviously the emergency medical services side of it. So that would be everything clinical outside of the hospital.
Oh.
So that will be your ambulances, your response vehicles and things like that. And then we also have rescue services. So if you are in a car accident or anything like that, there is a rescue vehicle available where we use the rescue equipment, or even if you are in a swift water or still water situation or anything like that, we can deploy rescue services to also come and assist you. So this is emergency medical services. In the name, there is an emergency. It is medical or rescue related.
Yes.
And we come and we give that service to help you, help get you out of that emergency, whether it is a medical or a rescue related one, and take you to definitive care. So that is the hospital that will best treat you and help you to get better.
Wow, very cool stuff. So I'm seeing here that you, Kolwane, an operational ALS ECP.
Yes.
What are those acronyms? What do they stand for essentially?
Okay, so operational means that I am working on the ambulance.
Okay.
So and then ALS means I'm an advanced life support practitioner. So there are different levels in emergency medical care.
Yes.
We have BLS, ILS and ALS. And under each one of those, there are different branches also. So BLS and ILS, it's basic life support and intermediate life support. Then under intermediate life support, we have ECA and ILS. So ECA is a new thing that they've brought out because now the BLS and ILS courses are no longer available.
I see.
So EMS is very young. Emergency medical services and pre-hospital medicine is very young. So we are constantly evolving and trying to better accredit, and improve the kind of care we give to people. So we now have an ECA that you can do as a part of the ILS banner. And then ALSs, we have a diploma program, and then we have an ECP program. So a diploma is when you do 2 years, a national diploma, and then you can qualify as an ANT. But Mr. Denver here will take you through all of that because he's the expert of the education. And then you have an ECP, which is an emergency care practitioner. That is a degree level, and that takes 4 years that you can do again, I will hand over to Mr. Denver for that one. But just those branches. So that's what an ECP stands for, an emergency care practitioner. It means you studied at the university and got your degree.
Emergency care practitioner.
Yes.
You said ALS stands for?
Advanced
life support. Oh, very, very cool stuff. Because, we always hear these terms being thrown around all willy-nilly, especially like I was mentioning with these other departments that came through that form part of the Department of Health, right? We hear so much on TV mostly. But now that we are spoiled for choice in terms of what we consume, there's conventional TV, and then there's social media, of course, and these other streaming platforms. So we hear, especially in dramas and soapies that focus on the medical space, we hear, I do this, I do that, I do this. So you mentioned that you guys are solely under the Gauteng EMS. Does it then mean if I move out of Gauteng and I go to Mpumalanga, for instance, does it go hand in hand with the uniforms that you wear? Do you guys do different jobs, or is it the same thing, just the differentiation is in provinces?
So we do the same jobs.
Okay.
We do wear similar uniforms in that we're all green.
Yes.
But the difference is that we are valid under different provinces, as you say. So you'll have the same thing, just that we are in Gauteng and we are managed by Gauteng province.
Yes.
And then they are in Mpumalanga, they are managed by the Mpumalanga province, and and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So it's the same thing, just in different places with people managing it in those places. Because being in Gauteng, it's a city. The way you manage emergencies in a city and the kind of emergencies you get in a city are very different to the ones you would get in a rural space. So it's not to say that those who are in the city would not be able to manage in a rural space, because when you go to the college or the university, as
you
Mr.
guys learn the same thing.
Exactly, you learn everything. Like I said, EMS is young, but it's growing, and we are improving in the kind of education that we put out for people. So we can manage it all, but obviously, depending on where you are, the needs would be different. So the people there would manage according to their
needs.
space. Yes, exactly.
Yes. I see that. Mr. Denver, talk to me. Ukolani is mentioning that you're now someone who focuses a bit more on the educational side of things. So a young girl or boy is out there, always fascinated by seeing ambulances running down, up and down our streets, and the uniforms that you guys wear feels like they're so cool and vibrant and exciting, and wants to go into the space of EMS. What do I need to learn, and how do I eventually find myself as a practitioner now?
All right. So basically, when you're in school,
Yeah.
you need to have the right subjects.
Okay.
So maths is important, and you'll find that along the way, a lot of things that you're going to do at university is going to require maths, especially in the medical field and science fields. You're going to need maths. So maths is acceptable as well as maths lit. You will need a science, so you'll find that a person who wants to do the highest level, like the ECP level, they'll need both sciences, both physical and life sciences.
Yes.
But in the case of the new program being the highest certificate, where you'll qualify as an ECA, you can even have just one of the sciences, but sciences again are important. So a young person looking to get into the industry needs to know that they need to have maths or maths lit, and they'll need to have either one or both sciences. Then obviously they need to be aware that this is a very demanding and challenging industry, that they will be expected to work night shifts, they'll be expected to work, as you can see, we're in a public holiday space. And
Yes,
we're
but you guys
as
are
well,
working,
yeah.
yes.
So they'll need to know that they will be sacrificing a lot of themselves to make sure that the communities are taken care of.
Yeah.
So yeah, we would encourage people to come and apply and to be part of our industry, and they need to know that this is also a very selfless job, and it's not something that's going to make you into a very rich person at the end of the day.
Yes.
It's not a financially
driven.
Yes,
Yeah.
not financially driven. It's more care and compassion.
I see. Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. So, you guys work with what I'm assuming is various characters that you guys come across, right? And people are different, and people have different outlooks and perspectives with, or rather, in terms of receiving care. There's some people who say, "Gladly so, Kolwane, please help me. I need help." And there's people who are skeptical and say, "Don't touch me. Don't do this. Don't do that." What does a typical day or shift now look like for someone who's working as a practitioner in the space of EMS? And how do you start your day off? When you wake up and leave your house and say, "I'm going to work."
Yeah, so exactly that. When you wake up in the morning, you have to psychologically prepare for the day. It's not just get into uniform and go to work.
Yes.
Everything that you do at the beginning of your shift, from the time you wake up until the time you get to work, is a preparation to get to assist people. Knowing what you're going to be facing, knowing that you're going to be facing different and sometimes rare or weird circumstances, you need to know that, okay, I'm going to be doing that today,
Yes.
or I could be doing this. You'll find that today you're working in an accident scene and the vehicle is overturned, and tomorrow or in the next call, you're holding an old granny's hand who just needs you to hold her hand while she's going to hospital.
Yes.
You need to be that person that can extend themselves right from firm, instructive thing for a person who's violent in a scene and needs help, versus also taking the other end of a child who then needs to have you guide them and coax them and be very caring. So it's very random. It can change on a spur of a moment. You can have a patient who is calm in the ambulance, and all of a sudden they become more
erratic.
severe, and then they change.
Yeah.
And they can change, and it's you must just be able to cope
navigate
with
that space.
navigate
Yeah.
that space, yeah.
So with that being said, Kolwane, talk to me, because now you're someone who practices advanced life support, right?
Yes.
Like I asked the gents from pathology and forensics earlier on, do you guys now, in your training, in the course of your studying in school, are you guys now psychologically prepared and trained, to navigate and essentially handle all of these things and the different cases that you guys are going to come across? Because they can vary from an adult who is so complying with your instructions to cases that are extreme and very sensitive with children and GBV and all of these things that we're now seeing have become a trend. Are you guys trained within your course, and what is the journey that, if there is training, that you go through that training?
Ooh, that's a bit of a difficult one, because it's hard to train someone to respond to something that you don't know you're going to get. So I think a lot of the times with this, I think Mr. Denver touched on this, is preparation is very important, to know how to prepare yourself, to know, okay, I probably won't know what I'm going to get, but I prepare for every eventuality. Should this happen, I know, okay, I at least have this plan, or at least have that plan. It might not always work, guaranteed. Like, it's a mess.
Yes.
But because you're going into such unpredictable spaces all the time, you have to prepare and think ahead. So they teach us to think ahead, first of all, to say like, okay, this is what I'm going into. This could go wrong, this could go wrong, this could go wrong. And you set yourself up for success. It's a very uncontrollable environment, but you create your own safe space. You create and control the pieces that you can, and then from that we also have practicals, because also it's cool to read a book, but you also need to be in the space. So from like first year you already start doing practicals, you already start working on ambulances, and they pair you with people who have been in the industry for a long time. So there's something that like a classroom can't teach you that someone who has been working in the industry can teach you, or being in the space with those people and going through it yourself. They can say, you see, this has happened. Then afterwards you talk about it to say, this is what has happened. This is how we've handled it. And going forward, this is how we can improve. So initially it's preparation. And then it's obviously then putting you in that space with people who are equipped and who have been doing it for a long time. You experience it for yourself, and then after each call, you sit down and you talk about it. This is what has happened. This is what we've gone through. This is what we've done. And this is what we can do to improve the next time. So they put you into it and they prepare you for it. They teach you to prepare for it as well.
I love it. I love how you mentioned that. But, we're living in such a technologically fueled space now, and world essentially, and AI is also playing such a huge role in the life that we're living, right? Especially for you, I think, Mr. Denver, because you're in the educational side of things, and you're the one now who's giving this information to the new upcoming students who want to get into the space. How do you then, or what would you then say are the things that you guys practice, to stay sharp in between calls? Because it can be so fast-paced, I'm assuming. In any given shift, like you say, you can't fully prepare because you don't know what to expect, right? So how do you stay sharp and know what the right thing to do on various calls in between the calls, and stay sharp and stay up to date and know what I have to do this when this happens? What are some of the things that you do to do that?
So education in EMS is in a dynamic state, in that we are compelled by the Health Professionals Council to stay current. We have to complete educational training along the years to ensure that we are at the peak of our education. So it's not just you study and then you're done. It's not the end of the road. We are encouraging something called lifelong learning, where you are supposed to and have to actually go to online spaces and do courses. You have to attend courses in person, and you have to maintain your education level. And the Health Professionals Council actually recognizes you on how many points you've done for the year, and you have to maintain a minimum standard of points to be able to keep your license. So it's not a case of I just qualify and I carry on. To be able to maintain your registration, you have to keep current. And that also helps you to be on the pinnacle of your education and the front line of your practice. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So, Kolwani, you advanced, because I'm assuming now that you have, gone through so much time in terms of equipping yourself with the necessary information and knowledge, right? And I could be wrong. You'll correct me, but I'm also assuming that these new personnel that are coming in the space who are very new, you now at times take them through the course of teaching them what the job requires practically, so how do you then function in terms of safety now? Because anything can happen. There can be situations where it's quite dangerous, and you're not necessarily maybe trained, or there's like a big guy and you're a female. You have to deal with that and provide the necessary care for this person. Or there's a person who has a weapon and is wielding it around and is threatening your lives and your safety. What are some of the things or the steps that you guys go through to ensure your guys' safety as practitioners?
Okay, so there are a few things.
Yeah.
Initially, when we get calls, they go through the call center, and there's a dispatcher. So when they say, when they call for an ambulance, they will
Yes.
say, this is what's happening, this is what we need.
Yes.
So from that point, the dispatcher will then be the one who allocates the resources. So if then I need to be there as an ALS and it's a dangerous scene, the dispatcher has already gone ahead of us and dispatched SAPs, has activated, everything that's necessary. So if it's like an unsafe space, we also have things like red zones, so areas that are known for unsafe activity or even hostility towards EMS. So we mark those as red zones. So if there's an unsafe space or an unsafe patient or they're a violent patient, it's already communicated. SAPs will be activated and has to get there before us. If the scene is not safe, you don't have to go in, because we say your life is the most important life. You need to be there to help the patient. If you become the patient, then how are we going to help the people? So first of all, there are red zones. Dispatcher, if there's a red zone, the dispatcher will send SAPs or whatever other resources
Law enforcement.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then if the patient is violent, same thing. And if you get there before them, you don't have to get in if it is unsafe, because you are equipped as a medical professional. You're not equipped as a law enforcer or anything like that. So you wait for them to do their part and you then do your part. We're all a team. Everything about EMS and first response is teamwork. So it's about communication. They dispatch the right things, and we work as a team to get the situation under control.
And essentially navigate it to find the best result, right?
Definitely.
I love that. So you get to the scene and it's safe then. You go in there and you try to assist and help the patient as best as you can. I'm sure, we've seen it on TV and stuff like that, because what I usually say is that, and I could be wrong, but I believe that TV, as much as it is entertainment and is exaggerated, of course, right, to entertain us and keep us glued to the screens and stuff like that. But there is some truth that accompanies all of these things that we watch, because they must have done their research to find out how the space of EMS and all of these other things functions, right? Then you get to a space, it's safe, you go in there, you try to assist. I'm sure there's been instances where now you couldn't have been able to assist or help a patient, or you didn't get there in time. Now, how does one handle that space and navigate the situation of not being able to assist and help a patient in the correct way?
So you mean in the correct way?
In terms of, giving them the necessary help that they need. Maybe a patient was diabetic, for instance, and they ran out of their pump or something like that. And you get there, you can't assist in the way that you're trained. And I don't want to use the term lose their lives or something like that, but I'm sure there are instances like that where you find that you couldn't help the way you would have wanted. How do you handle that space now?
Me.
Yeah, forgot.
In EMS, we are always supposed to be prepared.
Okay.
There shouldn't be an instance where an ambulance arrives at the side of a patient that needs to provide a certain amount of care, and they don't have the equipment, or they don't have the necessary anything.
Knowledge or information.
Yes. To be able to help the person. And then if they get there and there is something that's out of their knowledge scope, then they can always phone back to the call center, and there's always a phone conference with someone who can help them to navigate the educational side. Maybe they weren't trained in this type of emergency. But there's never a case of arriving at the side of the person and you don't have the right equipment or you don't have the resources to manage. It might be an educational thing that, as I said, you phone for backup and they give you the assistance that you need over the phone. If a vehicle doesn't have the right equipment, the vehicle should be properly stocked before the person can even leave the base. So if it's a case of someone, as you said now, they don't have their pump or they're diabetic and they need something that you finished it along the way while you were busy with the previous call, you finished everything. That vehicle should then return back to base and it should restock. The next vehicle that is stocked and ready and available is the one that gets dispatched to the resource, to the emergency. So you find, okay, you're on the scene and you used on that same scene, you finished all the things that you needed. That doesn't mean that you cannot continue assisting, because you call back to the call center and the call center can dispatch the additional assistance to you to help. So there shouldn't be a case of someone arriving there and you don't have, for example. But it is a case of if you cannot manage this patient, then it needs to be escalated to the next level of care, and that's when the advanced life support paramedic will come in and then take over and assist to that level.
I love that. So now let's talk misconceptions, because I'm sure there are stigmas and stereotypes that accompany the space of medical care, especially emergency medical care, saying that these people never help, these people never arrive on time and stuff like that. How do you try now to break those misconceptions and educate and enlighten people in the correct way, and give them the correct information that accompanies, being a practitioner and a caretaker in the space of medical services?
Okay, so a person needs to know how to access EMS.
Okay.
So accessing EMS, you need to be able to phone 112 from any phone and call into the call center for assistance. And you'll find that people who do make that call, they need to know where are they. They need to know what the emergency is. They need to know details surrounding that emergency so that they get the correct resources. It's difficult for someone to say, someone's having a stomach pain, and then the resource that arrives is
the
not
incorrect
up to
one.
to the level that they need. Or, and this happens a lot, is that the person doesn't know the road name. And the ambulance is in the area trying to find
the place,
only to find that the details that were given were incorrect. And then when the ambulance arrives and it's late, and then it seems like, oh, you guys took so long. So it's not just on the EMS side. Yes, we know there's always going to be issues of shortages of ambulances. There's always going to be issues of shortages of staff, and we cannot shy away from that. There is that issue, not just in Gauteng, but nationally there is shortages of vehicles and staff. But that doesn't mean that there's also not other challenges that can be contributing factors that delay an ambulance to a scene. So, I mean, you cannot also stop. Look at the potholes in the roads. Now, the ambulance that was coming to you hits a pothole, and now the vehicle is not able to continue the journey. Now you'll find that ambulance has to wait on the side of the road, and another ambulance needs to be dispatched. Of course, there's going to be
more
a
time
delay.
now. Yes.
And there are things that are unacceptable delays, like, for example, if people are deliberately delaying because they haven't checked their vehicle in time or whatever. But those are minimal compared to the delays that are unavoidable.
And out of your control, essentially.
Out of your control.
I love that. So let's talk Rancho and Rancho 2025, and now your involvement with this year's Rancho. Why are you guys here? For someone who's wondering and is watching, saying, I don't find the necessity in EMS being there. You guys should be out there helping people, and stuff. Because it's the Easter weekend. There's so many accidents that happen, and they feel like Denver and Kolwani should be out there. What are they doing at the Rancho? What's the involvement? And what's some of the things that you would like for people to take away, essentially, and learn from your involvement with this year's Rancho?
Maybe those people should talk to my boss also, and I can go home now.
Yes, sure, Kolwani, I don't know.
No, so we are here at the Rancho because, like you say, it's important for the public to be informed. It's important for the public to know how to access an ambulance, how it all works and all of that stuff. If there's delays, why there's all those things. If they want to be a part of it in terms of I'm out of school, I now want to be a paramedic, how do I do it? Or if they want to even know, what does an ambulance look like? I've never seen it, and I don't want to be, I don't want to be in an emergency to see an ambulance.
Yes.
So we want to just expose them to what EMS is. We want to educate the public and like who we are, what do we do, and like that we are there for them. I know that a lot of the times it feels like we never want to be on the scene. Everyone's
Yes.
delaying because they're having lunch. Like, it's not true. The work behind the scenes, the work that goes on behind the scenes is so hectic and intense and passionate from all the people who are involved. So we just wanted to come here to share that with the public,
Yes.
to inform the public on everything, and just to also give them access to all the things that we have. It's not just this ambulance. There's PRVs, there's ICUs, there's disaster response vehicles, there's Mfezi vehicles. We have a huge fleet. There's so much that the public doesn't get to see on a daily basis that we would just like to show them so that they can see the full picture, and that when they need something, they know that this is how it works and this is how I can access it.
Yeah.
Can I just add to
Sure.
that? Look, you have to go right back to the Constitution in this one, because under the Patient's Rights Charter, a patient has the right to have the information of the services that are provided to them. And this is more along the lines of, if we are here to give them that information to ensure that we are providing them with their patient's rights.
Yes.
So this is more than just a show off of what we've got as well. This is a patient's right to know what services are
come and
available.
inquire.
To inquire.
Yes.
So we are also providing that as a service to give information to people as to what services are available, how to access the services, and what to expect and what their responsibility is as well as a patient.
I love that. I love that so much, man. You guys are sharing so much information and knowledge, and you're breaking all these misconceptions, of course, and the misinformation that's out there in the general public. Because we're always taught, I would say, not the wrong things, but the not fully correct things. There's little information that's shared to us as the general public, as individuals in society, and I appreciate and I love how you guys now are trying to break those barriers. So for someone who wants to get in contact with you guys, wants to reach out, wants to get involved, wants to come and see all of the things that you're talking about, Kholwane, even above and outside of the Rand Show, how do we get a hold of you guys and where can we find you?
Okay, so we are available on the Department of Health page.
Yeah.
It's there on every social media platform.
Yeah.
You can access all of the information on there. And then outside of that, honestly, I think it's more so a thing of like, please don't get in an emergency, because that's another way that you can access
Yes,
us.
I mean-
But there are so many institutions. There's the college. If you are living in the Pretoria area, you can go to the college. You can inquire about if you want to further your. If you want to be interested in education in there.
Yes.
There are other institutions also. We are part of Gauteng EMS, but the pre-hospital healthcare sector is so vast. So there are also other private services that you could inquire to or about if you want to do like a ride along.
Yes.
You can even do one here. But if there's there's Netcare, there's ER24. So the pre-hospital environment is very open for you to just access in any way that you want. In terms of the college, if you want to further your education, there's also universities like UJ, there's DUT, there's CPUT if you are in Cape Town.
Oh, yes.
So if you want to do the degree or the diploma, you can inquire in many other ways like that. So yeah, so you can see us here, or you can go to the college, you can go to the universities, you can go to the EMS spaces and just inquire and I'm interested. He's going to do a ride line, exactly.
Yeah, very fascinating to find that you can a general individual in society and in the public can do a ride along. I didn't know that. Very, very fascinating. And maybe this is something that we as the Vuga Breakfast Show should do and see how you guys function on the road, in the job, in a day-to-day shift that you guys go through on a daily basis. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll absolutely try and make time to come through, because you've seen there's so many people who've come through and we need to make time for all of you. But and I could be wrong, but I feel like all of these departments work very hand in hand with each other. And maybe we should make time to bring all of you guys now and have a sit down, because you mentioned that you work in connection with law enforcement and other stakeholders and these other entities to make sure that the general public gets the best care ever. Thank you, Kholwane, and thank you, Denver. We appreciate it. You're perhaps wondering who I was in conversation with. This was Kholwane Shabalala and Denver Ranmaren. I have to make sure with that one. And they were just sharing some